I am really excited for this week's teardown. This is the 3.4 liter Twin Turbo V6 out of a 2023 Toyota Tundra with 38,000 miles on it, and I finally got one on my stand. This has been the hardest core engine to get my hands on. They're incredibly elusive. Every Toyota dealership I've called, emailed, or shown up to has done everything but give me the middle finger when I ask about them. Every shop says, oh, they always got to go back to the dealer. Toyota has been gatekeeping these cores, and I finally got one. I was following the right truck with the right set of cheap straps, with the tailgate down, hitting the right set of bumps. Okay, look, this did not come off of the back of some truck in the middle of the night. The sun was up. I'm kidding. I bought this legitimately, and I finally found a place that would actually sell one to me for the core price, and we're going to tear it down just to see how bad it really is. I am a huge fan of the outgoing 5.7 liter 3UR FE that came in the 07 to 21 Tundras. I've seen several of those engines over 500,000 miles without a ton of work needing to get them there. And these I had high hopes for. And I've ridden in these. I've driven one of these. They drive great. I have no complaints on the way they drive, but they've kind of been in the headlines for a few years since they came out because of catastrophic engine failure. And this one is supposed to be locked up. This is the V35A FTS. It is a twin turbocharged direct injected all aluminum V6, 3.4 liters of displacement. This makes 389 horsepower, 8 more than the outgoing 3UR, and 479 pound-feet of torque, which is a lot more torque than the 3UR, which you can definitely tell when you drive these vehicles. But all that power and torque is great when it runs. I was told this engine is locked up, but what's interesting is this still had a flex plate on it, and there were no saw marks, and all the torque converter bolts were out. So either it turns over or it's locked up. Not a whole lot of choices there. So let's see. It turns. It's not locked up. It's not. It feels really, really high compression. Or it's broken. Oh, maybe we fixed it. Yeah, okay, so there is definitely something wrong with this engine. First thing we're going to do is pop the plugs out of it and see what they look like. Well, the plugs look really good. They're all the same. Nothing's been forcefully regapped by a piston. I don't see any issues here. Now that the plugs are out, I'm sure this is going to feel completely different. It actually does feel a little different. Maybe I'm just fixing it. I don't hear anything loose. We'll find out. The next first thing I'm going to do is start removing the charge piping and the water to air intercooler that's on top of the engine. I will say it's kind of weird looking at this engine because there are a lot of 8mm bolts on a Toyota. 8s on a Toyota. Been hanging out with Ford and Chrysler. That might be it. That was definitely it. And throttle body. We just have some hose in the way. Now, there are a few coolant pipes and hoses around here. We're going to just try to get some of the clamps off. Do this the right way. It's so new, everything comes apart nice and easy. Oh, I just broke that. I heard it snap. I'm sure they had a good reason for using plastic here. I'm sure it'll never be a problem going forward, even though I cracked it trying to get it off. Zip some bolts out. Did that help me? Look at that. Throttle body and coolant pipes removed. There are 2 more hoses in the way. And I think we can start unbolting the intake plenum. Gonna remove this, at least loosen this. That's all we need to do. Now we just have some proper 10mm headed bolts. I think that's everything. It's literally the top plenum. We'll have to get the lower manifold out. Now the other thing that's cool about these engines, or one thing that's cool I should say about these engines, is that they are port injected, but they're also direct injected. They're both. They have DI, so you can gum up the intake valves with this, and then you can wash it out with this. Now we'll start on the fuel lines. And I don't know how this comes off. Let's get a, let's see, does this just, can I do this with my hands? No way. Wow! That's nice. I like that. No tools needed. This bracket is bent. We'll get this out of the way. Another bracket. We have a lot of brackets on this engine. Okay, we're getting there. Now we're going to work on the back of the engine. I've got still got a bunch of lines, some harnesses. This is for the port injectors here. I'll leave that one on there. It's for the port injectors, or the direct injectors, I should say. This can come off. This is off. Hey, parts are leaving. All right, so this, I'm just going to pull this with, and we'll do this the right way. Like I said, I wanted to do this the right way. Okay. That fuel line is off. Next, we'll remove the high pressure fuel line. And the high pressure fuel pump. That all looks pretty good. Let's see if this comes out. Oh, there's a little bit of metal transfer on the roller. I'll show that when I show all the valve train. I'm gonna go ahead and get this coolant pipe off the valve cover. There we are. Next, we're gonna crack all the bolts loose that hold the lower manifold to the cylinder heads. We have one connector here, and now we should be able to lift the lower manifold. Look at that. Now you can see the direct injection rails right in the middle. Let's take a look down these intake ports. There's definitely some buildup. What's interesting is it's the rear valve of every port that looks bad. I wonder if that has to do with the port injector spray pattern. Let's go to the other bank. This one looks more even. Take that back. It's got to be something to do with those port injectors. Next, let's peel off the left-hand valve cover. Those are very glued on there. I guess there is a little lip right here. Is that miss a bolt? Sure, it's acting like it. This looks like I need to take this out. We're learning together. Did that help us? It sure did. First look under the valve cover, and it looks clean in here, but with 38,000 miles, how dirty could it? You know what? I'm not going to ask that question. This is how it should look with such low miles and proper maintenance. Now, the first thing that struck me when I pulled the valve cover off was the fact that the cam lobes are quite narrow. Now, a lot of manufacturers do this to reduce contact patch, which reduces friction and frees up power and fuel economy. I totally understand why they do that, but it usually comes at a cost, and that is longevity. However, I don't see any issues present. I don't see a bunch of metal transfer. This all looks pretty standard Toyota for this era. Chain is present. The guide looks good. Little bridge guide. This looks all right. Now let's start on the right-hand valve cover. Did I miss it? Oh, I gotta take these off. Sure, it's much easier now. So this is what it looks like underneath the right-hand valve cover. It's pretty clean, but if you go to this corner, that's not good. A little bit of sparkles in the corner. It's not terrible, but it's just a hint of metal suspended in the oil. As well, there's some marks on the cam lobes from some metal transfer. Could be a little bit of debris in the oil that did that. Otherwise, I don't see any issues. Next, we're going to tear the cooling system, the coolant crossover and thermostat housing off the front of the engine. I'd like to know that these are plastic and they have a seam on them. I don't love that. All right, aside from the one, is that it? Let's take the extension out of the equation. That did it. Now this is also plastic. I got a couple 8mm headed bolts. We'll get those out next. This goes to the oil cooler. I'll have to get a pan for that. This is all pretty loosey-goosey. We're getting there. That bolt was hidden by that crossover. There's our plastic thermostat housing. All right, so now it looks like all we need to do is take these two hoses off of the oil cooler. To make it easier, I'm going to get this bracket out of the way. Well, it was supposed to go in the pan. Okay, I think we got most of the coolant on my floor. I'm going to remove this tensioner so I can get the coolant pipes past it. There is a petcock, a drain petcock on the water pump. So we're going to go ahead and loosen that. At least it was kind of loose already, and see if anything comes out. And we're going to let it do its thing and drain for a little while. That's a pretty cool idea. Alright, so I'd like to show you some things that are kind of pain points for me. I've worked on a few engines in my life, and I can tell you that having a seamed piece of plastic as part of the cooling system on both sides, this is whatever. This looks like it's all one piece, and I have less of a problem with that. Plus, it's a kind of a maintenance item, but this is not. And having a seamed piece with multiple ports on it, I just hope that's not a recipe for future problems. And then you've got this molded plastic hose that should have been steel. I'm just not a fan of this disposable components. Another thing that I think is worth mentioning at this point is the amount of surfaces that are mating surfaces between sections of aluminum. Now you've got your water pump here. You've got this metal plate, it's a steel plate, which is affixed to this part of the timing cover, which is then sealed to this, which is then sealed to the block. You got an inner timing cover, an outer timing cover, and then whatever this is. As well as you have your standard Toyota cam tower, which has been a notorious problem with the 5.7 and some of the other engines. There are a lot of places that sealant could break down and leak, but we don't know that it will happen. Now it is time to remove the water pump. And there's our water pump. So the water pump looks really nice. Obviously it's original to the truck it came from or to the engine. Spins great. There's no signs of leakage. This is something you should definitely hold on to.
Out you go.
Now the crank pulley. Let's see if we can get this bolt out. No idea how tight this is going to be. Oh, this is going to be fun. Now we'll try the big bolt, the big impact here. Oh yeah, I loosened it. Beautiful. Now let's unbolt the timing cover. There's just a couple of bolts that hold this on. I think we're gonna use the air for this. Oh, now we're leaking big time. I didn't get them all, did I? No. All right, we need to verify that I got all the bolts out because there are a couple. I don't see any that I missed yet. Okay, how good is your glue, Toyota? Not too bad. I'm going to remove the glued-on valve cover gaskets at the top. And it looks like the timing cover should slide off. Look at that. The inside of the timing cover, it's got some debris in this area. Overall, not too bad. So the timing system actually looks really good. It's simple. There's not a lot of components here. There's one tensioner. It's oil pressure fed right here. This all looks good. I don't see any issues with guides. Not that I expected anything. Here's your oil pump. Just got a spring-loaded tensioner, nice and simple. Hard to break there. Before I go start peeling the timing system off, I'm going to crack the bolts loose for the cam gears. I think this is what I need to do here. All right, now we can start peeling the timing system off. We're going to start with the tensioner. I was under some pressure. I admit I kind of screwed up here because there's a place to turn this over where I could get the chain out, and I did not turn it to that position. So this is still under a lot of tension here. This is loose here. And I don't want to go moving stuff around and bend any valves. So what I'm going to do is unbolt this cam gear and this cam gear, and that should alleviate the problem. This may not work. Oh, that was a good sound. Looks like I should take these out too. Let's get all these cam gears removed. There's one bank. What have I done? What have I done here? Well, that was awkward. And here we go again with this. All right, we're just gonna let that chain hang. And now we need to get the chain out because it is tied up by the oil pump chain. And I don't know if this is gonna get loose enough to get this off of here. Maybe, oh, look at that. We can just do that. Oh, we can't just do that. That would be too easy, but let's get that off. Oh. Oh no, I broke it. What are you gonna do? Now that baby chain is out. How does this come out? Oh, like that. Whoa, that's a chain. This is a unit. Okay, I just noticed something that's bad. This turns like crap. Like this takes way too much force. This should be able to zip around. There's a ton of resistance in this. Now this isn't enough resistance to keep the engine from turning over smoothly by the crank. And it feels like I'm fixing it, but this feels terrible. Let's take this out and see why that feels so bad. All right, let's take a look at the timing system. There's good and bad here. All the guides are in great shape, but would you expect otherwise? I mean, these are just perfect. But remember how this idler didn't want to turn? Well, look at the amount of metal. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus here. Look at the metal chunks in there. That doesn't go there. So obviously there's some metal debris in this engine. That's the first major sign that we've seen it. Next, let's get the oil pump removed. At least I think this is how this comes off. That's how it is coming off. All right, so here's the rear housing. Now I probably could have left this, well, I think this actually bolts through this cover, so I had to take this off to get this off. There's a few scratches right here that I can feel with my fingernail, but no major wear, and I don't see any debris on this side. Let's go look at the pump itself. So this housing looks pretty good. Not a ton of damage there. The gears look nice. There's a little bit, I would say like a smidge of some scratches here. I don't think it would affect anything. This looks like it's in excellent shape. It doesn't look like a bunch of debris ran through it. Next, I'm going to focus on the oil cooler. Now we can remove the front rear timing cover, the rear of the front timing cover. There's just a few bolts to hold this in. Did I miss any? Or how many did I miss? I think I got them all. Oh, we're leaking over here. That sounded good. There are a lot of places to pry on this, which I have to appreciate. I think I can slide this unit off. There's the back side of the inner front rear back timing cover. Doesn't look like it's been leaking. Some foam. For just a minute, we're going to focus on the rear of the engine so that we can separate the two cylinder heads, the two different banks. Now, this is more of a crash part than anything. In the event of an accident, when the engine's pushed into the cab, they really want the fuel system protected because they don't want to fire. So that's why there's this giant cast iron. It's more of a, it's not a bracket as such, it's more of a barrier. Get this high pressure fuel line from between the rails. Oh, we're leaking some fuel. A lot of fuel. We're going to clean the floor for a minute. Next, we'll remove the vacuum pump. That didn't suck. Now it is time to crack the cam cramps loose. so that we can remove the cramshafts. I need some help with that one. While we're here, we'll get the 2 remaining bolts out of the cam tower. And the cam tower is off. So here's what the valve train looks like. All the rollers feel pretty good. I don't see any major issues here. Maybe a little bit of transfer on some of the rollers. It's not bad. Onto the cams, the cam caps, and the cam tower. So the cam shafts look excellent. I don't see any defects, any damage whatsoever, as do the cam caps. This all looks excellent. The other camshaft looks good. That's intentional. That's not wear or damage. And the cam tower looks equally nice. It's almost as if the debris, or if there was debris suspended in the oil that couldn't make it to the cylinder head, but clean oil could. It's time to crack the head bolts loose. We have some stuff to work around. Mainly these spark plug tubes. They're pretty tall. Those are tight. Whoa there. Wow. The brakes are on. I know, I feel that way too. That sounded terrible. Now let's see what it takes to rip its head off. Oh, nothing. Nothing at all. Well, open deck. The head gasket looks really nice. That thing's perfect. So this is what the bores look like. They look beautiful. Pistons look good. The deck surface, I don't see any issues with. A little bit of wear on the thrust side is present on that one as well. A couple scratches. The cylinder head looks really nice. It's excellent machine work. All the combustion chambers look the same, which is a good sign. I didn't think we'd find any problems with this. Science, bank 1. Ooh, that sounded bad. I wonder why that one sounded so bad. Oh, I think it was just rocking in the bore. That's kind of normal. Now it's time to cram the other bank's cam cramps loose. Go ahead and get this tower bolt. Let's go ahead and zip these out. I don't know if I cracked those loose or not. I feel like I missed it. Very similar story on this side. All the rollers feel nice. I don't really see a ton of glitter or sparkles in here. It all looks really nice. The camshafts look good, but there's a little bit of damage here. Right there. That's not the best finish. Still, nothing I would condemn. And the caps, you can see there's a little bit of debris here, a little bit of, that's some sparkles. See a little bit on the cam tower. But the journals are still nice. This is very serviceable. Now we can crack the head bolts loose on the right make. What's behind head number 2? Pistons. Well, here's our head gasket. It's perfect. Let's take a look at this bank. There's a little bit of debris in here, but I don't see any damage. Just a hair of wear. There's a bunch of carbon right there at the top. Cylinder head, just like the other side, it looks great. I see no defects, there's no damage. Very reusable components. It is once again time for some science. Now we're going to try to turn the short block over. Since there's no valve train, see how okay it's bad. That's way too much force, but the fact that it turns over tells me that it'll come apart okay, which is my biggest concern. Now we're going to turn this thing over, drain the juices if we can. Oh, it seems my engine stand is set wrong. Oh, we got some oil here. Oil coming out of it looks clean. Now that we have this engine down to the short block, we can clearly see there's way too much resistance in turning the crankshaft over, which means that there is some damage to the rotating assembly, and there's actually a nationwide recall on this 3.4 liter V35A in 22 up Tundras and 23 up Sequoias, and I'm sure there's a cutoff because I don't think it's every single one of them, and I don't know if it affects the hybrids too, but either way, we might be dealing with what the recall has stated. There is a manufacturing defect with the main bearings or the rod bearings, and there's lots of speculation as to what causes this. We're going to take this all the way down. Hopefully we can get to the bottom of this story, at least for this one. Let's zippy doo-dah this lower oil pan out. Okay. And there's our, first look. Inside the oil pan. Well, there's a little bit of RTV in there that I knocked in, but I don't really see any other glaring problems with, yeah, there's some. So here's the lower oil pan, and that is bad. Those are silvery sparkles. You can draw with it. Let's see if we can. What do you guys think I was going to write there, huh? That's just what it reminds me of, that's all. But yeah, so there's definitely a bunch of glitter in here. Pretty thick too. Time to get the upper oil pan off. Why is this in the way? No idea why that one was so much tighter. I think I got all of the big ones. I sure did. I just have 2 10s at the back of the pan. And now, Should be able to pry this sucker off. Well, I thought we would be able to. There are places to pry, but I didn't want to use them. Oh, look at that. That did it. Well, I don't see anything too wild, but let's go ahead and get the pickup tube removed. When I looked inside the pickup, when I first pulled the lower pan, I could kind of see some faint glistening. So let's see if we can get anything out of this. No, not really. Let's see if I can see anything in here. No, not really. It looks just like it might have been oil that I was looking at. And now the windage tray. I don't see anything remarkable yet. Everything seems pretty dory-honky. Many things that I read on the internet state that there's a problem with the main bearings, and the fact that this takes a ton of resistance to turn it over could be a good indicator that that is the case. But what I'd like to do next is, instead of unbolting the bed plate of this engine or the lower half of the block, all of them, I'm going to only unbolt the ones that clamp the main bearings in place. By reducing the tension on those bearings, it should make it easier to turn over. At least I think. Ooh, these are tight. Let's turn it on its side and crack these things loose. See how this goes. All right, let's see if that made it better. Now keep in mind, I just cracked them loose. I didn't zip them out. Now there's tight spots and loose spots, but it is different. I would say it's much easier. So I think we are gonna find, it's got a little bit of a tight spot there, but I think we are gonna find some main bearing damage in this engine. Let's zip them out and see if it changes it again. Now what I could have done is put some sort of force on it and then loosen them one at a time to see if we could pinpoint which one was the problem. But the whole thing's coming apart anyway. Yeah, it's still, now it's worse. It's much worse. I don't know what I have done. All right, let's get this bed plate unbolted. I think that's all of them. Let's get blue on the task here. We need to get this your main seal plate out of the way. All right, moment of truth. Let's see what this looks like. Oh, that's bad. Yeah. Yeah, that's not good. It's exactly what we thought it was going to be. Well, that's unfortunate. Would you look at that? That is a spun main bearing. That is a spun main bearing. You can see there's the seam right there, and there's the seam right there. It's interesting that they both rotated at the exact same amount. Like they are both, the seams are now at the same location. The seam is supposed to be between the two shells at the surface of the block, but it is not. So this thing spun a couple main bearings, but why? Why does it do that? I don't have the answer. Unfortunately, when you look at the bed plate, there is severe damage here. And the other bearings that are in here look okay. So I would struggle to think that it's the bearing material that's the fault. Now, Toyotas have different sized bearings. Maybe it's a sizing issue. Maybe it's a machining issue. Here's your bearing sizes right here. That pertains to your mains. There's 4 mains. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the sizes. What's interesting is the 2 that weren't damaged are 08s. The damaged ones were 06 and 10. So I have no idea if that has anything to do with it, but that's how the Toyota engines are. And this one did exactly what everyone seems to be experiencing in the recall and online. It's really a sad deal for Toyota. The next thing we're going to do is unbolt all of the rod caps. We're going to just get the caps off, we'll pluck the crank out, and then we'll push the rods and pistons out of the bore. Ooh, that was bad. Let's rotate this over backwards. We actually haven't rotated this thing over to see how it feels. Yeah, see, it's much better now. But that was cool. EJECTO main bearing. Try to keep track of what goes where. All right, now I think I can get all the bolts and stuff out. Now we should be able to get the crank right out. As it feels like it's welded in there. It was definitely stuck. Let's see if we can just push these out by hand. I have no idea how tough this is going to be. Not too bad. Oh, we might as well just knock those up. Not that kind of knock up. Boy, do we have things to talk about here. So let's start with the rod bearings. As you can see, there is ample wear through the first coating, and it gets worse from there. I mean, this does not look like a 38,000 mile engine to me, unless it's like a BMW S engine, then maybe. But it's not that. They all have wear through the coating. Next, let's talk about the rods and pistons. So one thing's interesting, these do not have fractured rods, which I don't think that's going to be a big problem at all. All the pistons look pretty good. None of the oil rings are clogged up. Oil control rings are nice and clear. Nothing's frozen in the land of the rings. This part all looks pretty good. I mean, this looks the miles. This looks the part. I don't see any issues here. I also haven't read any reports that these things are used to burning oil. A little bit of wear to the skirt there, but it's, I mean, this is a great set of very reusable components, I will say. But the pistons aren't all that I want to point out. I'd like you to look at the side of the rod. Look at the circular damage. They all have it to some degree. Now, I don't know that this would cause any problems, but it's worth noting, and I'll show you that in a minute. Now, it's only on one side, or maybe it's on both sides, and some are worse than others. This one's pretty bad here. Of course, this being the back of the engine, this being the front. Let's talk about the main bearings, what's left of them. So this shell looks pretty decent. This one's got quite a bit of wear. This one's a little worse. This one was spun. You can see just all of the debris and all the damage in here. Now, the recall claimed that there was debris left in the oiling channels of the engine that created this failure. This kind of debris is not that kind of debris. That's machining debris you won't find after a bearing spins. But you can see they were definitely chucking apart. That's all from the bearing coming apart. And the last one is still on the crank, which we're going to try to pop off together. Nope. Apparently not. Nope, we're gonna need more tools for that. Let's see if we can get that off real quick. I don't know how welded this is. These get friction welded. Use my old chisel driver here. Yeah, there we go. We just had to break the seal. Yeah, that one's pretty wrecked. Wow. So that final bearing, whoo boy, that one is toast. Look at the amount of wear on the backside. We haven't had a main bearing look this destroyed in a long time. Now, I believe that this thing was running for a bit, probably making all kinds of racket, but it's not a traditional type of knock because it's not a rod bearing, it's a main bearing. It's definitely deformed. It grabbed that bearing and just ripped it in the journal. Now we can look at the crankshaft. It looks great until it doesn't. That journal is the start of it. Note that the rod journals look excellent, but the main bearings are absolutely trash. Look at the disparity between these two journals here. There's your rod journal here. Here's your main journal. Tons of aluminum transfer here from the bearing. And then there's the one that we just removed. Yikes. Super trashed. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention, because we saw the damage or the wear on the sides of the rods. Here are the thrust bearings. Now, the outgoing 3UR FE, the 5.7 liter V8, has 360 degree thrust bearings. It's the proper way to build an engine. And these only have 180 degree thrust bearings, which means they only sit in the block. They do not sit in the bed plate, which I'll look at in just a second. They only sit on the block. And that's half the bearing coverage. And as you can see, there is some wear, but we don't know if that's the part of the damage from this failure or if that is the root of the issue. I would not tend to believe that that's the root of the issue, but it certainly doesn't help to have less protection. Let's take a look at the bed plate. There's definitely a bunch of damage to the bed plate. This would need a ton of machine work, a line hone. Who knows how much material is destroyed here. I'm not going to say that the block is trash because it certainly can be fixed. I've seen much worse fixed, but I don't know how many people are rebuilding these engines at this point in time. But you can definitely see there's a little bit of heat in these two journals. So let's take a look at the block. You see how nice that looks? How nice that looks and how unnice, that's not a word, these two look. This one's actually worse. It's pretty impressive. The other thing that's interesting is that these bearings, let me grab one of those. I'll grab a good shell here. Let's see, I can't remember which one sits. Nope. So these bearings, if you notice, they don't have a locating tab on them. Now, there's a lot of engines that are like this. You know, like the Eco Diesels like this, which those are known for spinning main bearing. We're not going to use that example, but there are, even the outgoing V8, the 5.7, does not have locating tabs on the main bearing. So it's not, I don't think that's the culprit here, but it is worth mentioning. You know, normally there'll be a bearing where, or the part of a bearing, that little tang that sits here and locates them in the journal, but that does not happen on this engine. And I don't know if it has anything to do with this failure or not, but either way, this is grabbing bearings. So the bores are really nice. I don't really see any issues. They look fantastic. Let's go to the other bank. A little bit of wear there. Now keep in mind, 38,000 miles. They better look good. I hope this outro doesn't go on too long, but I have a few things to say about this engine's failure. First and foremost, Toyota has officially blamed these engines' failure on debris left behind during the machining process. I feel like we've heard that before because most manufacturers, when there's an oiling related failure, seem to blame that. Hyundai and Kia blamed the Theta 2's failure when the replacement engines are failing in the exact same way. That's kind of strange, don't you think? In fact, I don't believe it whatsoever. I think it's total BS, because if it was debris that caused this engine's failure, which I'm not saying that debris won't cause an engine failure, how does it know to target just the main bearings and not the rod bearings? They share the same oiling circuit. How did we find no debris in the top of that engine, or very little, no damage to the cams or cam caps or cam towers? That doesn't make any sense if there was debris suspended in the oil. You see how crazy that sounds when you think about it? Now, I'm not going to say that there wasn't debris left behind during the machining process, because I don't know. And I also can't look at one of these that hasn't failed yet, because the debris left behind from this engine's failure could also mimic the debris left behind from machining, because it's the same metal. But I just don't buy it. Another thing to be said is a lot of people are going to be quick to blame the lack of a tang on the main bearings for locating them. That's simply not the case. There should be no situation where the crankshaft physically touches the bearing while the engine is running. It just should not happen. There should be a thin layer of oil. That's why it's there. That's why you have oil pressure between the bearing and the crankshaft. And anytime that is reduced, that's when you have metal on metal contact, and that's why the crankshaft grabs a bearing and spins it in the journal, and that's the damage that we saw here. So something is causing a drop in oil pressure, or the tolerances are incorrect with the journals, the sizing, the bearings. Something is wrong. Machining tolerances, there is something wrong with these engines. And I don't know if the replacement engines that are going in following this recall are any better than the ones that are going out, except for that haven't had a chance to fail. I don't know that answer yet, but I don't hate this engine. I know that's probably shocking to hear, but I don't hate it. There's a lot of really good things about it. It's both port and direct injected, so you get both benefits there, and it's relatively easy to work on. It feels like a Toyota and a Ford and a Chrysler and a GM. It's domesticated Toyota. I don't really like the amount of plastic on this engine, but there are some good things about it. I just don't understand why this is the only engine option for those vehicles. I know they're offered in other vehicles, not the Prado or new Land Cruiser, but the LX600, I think they call it, or the Sequoia, obviously the Tundra, and the GX, I think, has this engine as an option. But you can't get a naturally aspirated V8, which is what a lot of people want when they buy a pickup truck. They just want a simple V8. The 3R made great power. It was super thirsty, so I'll give you that. It really wasn't great on gas, but I also don't know how good these are either. So if you own one of these twin turbo V6 Tundras, let me know what kind of fuel economy you get in the comments, because I'm sure it's better because the bar was pretty low after the 5.7, but is it worth all of this? The 3UR is 10 times easier to work on than this engine in my experience, but it's still not bad for a late model vehicle. This is just one data point. That's something else to remember. This is one engine. I haven't torn down 20. We can't compare or trend or do any of those things. And I don't know what the maintenance history was like on this. I don't know a lot of things which would potentially shed a different light on this type of failure, but objectively, we can see that this engine has failed prematurely. There's a lot of wear in the regular parts of the bearings. The rod bearings were worn significantly, too much so. And if there was debris, I think there would also be, okay, I'm getting into more details that we've already talked about. So I'm glad I was able to get one of these engines for a teardown. I will definitely jump at the chance to get more if I can find them, which, well, 1 in 3 years doesn't really give me a lot of hope to find one soon. But as always, I love all the comments, all the feedback, and even the criticism. I love it all, and I'll catch you on the next one. Oh, and if you'd like to buy any parts out of this recalled Tundra engine, just shoot me an email. I'll leave our email in the video description.